Good morning, Vikings fans. This is Morning Joe's, and I am your host, Joe Johnson, owner of PurplePTSD.com, VikingsTerritory.com, and PurpleTerritoryRadio.com. Here with, as always, Mr. Joe O.G. Oberly.
Good morning.
Joe is the editor of the aforementioned network. We don't sound too happy, but we should be because we have a very special guest on the show this morning. Vikings legend, vodka magnate, Mr. Chad Greenway.
Chad, how are you?
Good, guys. You guys sound like you're at a funeral today. It's really not that bad, guys. You got to fire up. We're early in the year.
Yeah.
Here, Chad. I mean, it's doom and gloom out here. Everywhere you go, everybody's writing the epitaph to this season and this team. But you're saying it's not there yet?
Oh my gosh, you guys are so dramatic. It's you got to be in the friendly confines of TCO Performance Center to really get a glimpse into that world. I mean, you have to understand. We have a lot of things to talk about on the negative side, but those are two impossible places to go into and win. Just historically, and even when we have good playoff caliber seasons, 11-5 seasons, 12-4 seasons, we rarely go to those two places and have a lot of success. So the fact that you guys are expecting different results, albeit we have a great football team and on paper a really good football team. Just let's let this thing play out. Let's get to the halfway mark and see where we're at. 2-2 is not the end of the world.
So we should RELAX. Is that what you're saying? Relax.
I'm not gonna buy into that marketing with their whole Rodgers bit. I don't watch Packer news, but no. We just need. It's about the next week. I mean, it always is in the NFL. It's about what's coming next in front of you. Get the next one, get back on track, and we can be singing a completely different tune next week, 7 days from right now. With, oh my God, they looked like this, and the defense was amazing, and making plays, and good things happened, and tip balls, and interceptions, and you just don't know. That's the NFL world, and unless you are a fan of the Patriots, everybody else is like you. So just buckle up. It's a long season.
It really is a week-to-week league, and things, like you said, can change in a week. And why is that, Chad? I mean, how come? What's behind the changing of readiness to play? How well a team looks, or what have you? Why does that happen from week to week so dramatically?
I'll add really quickly on that too. It's hard to find the positive because a lot of the feedback we get from readers is hyper negative and reactionary, and I mean it makes sense for people to do something online. They have to be emotionally engaged to get there. They're either really happy or really mad, and more often than not on the internet they're mad. And so there's a lot of people saying things about Zimmer getting the team quote unquote ready to play for big games. There's a few examples of that. Even the 49ers game a few seasons ago. I think it was a nationally televised game where you guys came out flat. The Bears game last year, the Eagles game, so on and so forth. So just tying into what Joe said with those examples, that's kind of like a big thing. Are you a strong believer in the coach needing to get players, adult men, up to play in that regard?
Oh my gosh, you guys couldn't have had me on in a better time. So this whole idea that the negativity. This negativity that comes from fans, and that's understanding, right? We're in an entertainment business. We are not perfect. We are entertainers. You are buying an opportunity to either watch, pay attention, go to a game, buy a jersey. That's up to you. That's on you. So for you to be super negative, you've been a fan since '61. You've been the whole thing. I understand that. But you have to understand at the same time that the exact same fan base in Chicago or in Green Bay, they're going through the same things. And, the ups and downs, and yes, the success is maybe greater in certain spots than others. But over the course of 50 years of football plus here in Minnesota, we obviously haven't won the big one. We've had our fair share of success. We've had a fair share of misery. It's about that's what being a fan is, the ups and downs. Now, the super negativity, that's what social media is given now, is everybody an opportunity to be just super negative and just clomp on everything that they see that they don't think that they agree with. Now, it goes back to the old adage, as a player, me putting my player helmet on, it's like, listen, you guys can be as negative as you want. You can bring all that attention to negativity, but if you think that's going to help in some way, well, that's obviously wrong, especially this part of the season. If you think that those guys in that locker room aren't negative enough on themselves, every play, every misstep, every missed tackle, every bad throw, every fumble, every negative, we look at those plays with much more of a discerning eye than any fan. And we're much harder on ourselves than any one person out there could be on us. And to me, going back to my career, nobody was more negative on themselves, than me. If I made a mistake, trust me, I knew it the moment it happened. I didn't need a fan to reach out and tell me. And, the one thing that you can be negative on Zimmer if you want, but the reality is if you want a head coach that's going to sit in that locker room or sit in those team meeting rooms and hold every person accountable for their mistakes, including Kirk Cousins, including Adrian Peterson back in the day when I was playing with him, he's the guy that's going to do that.
Yeah.
Now, what do you think that, I don't care if we come back from a tough loss in Chicago, I guarantee you those boys sat in that room together as a whole team and went over about 15 negative plays and pointed out specific examples of where guys need to do better for this team to have a chance to win. And that's true accountability. And then you can all sit there, behind your desk and wonder, well, what if that happened to me at my work? I have a feeling that your boss, your employer, your constituents would find some negativity in your workload, would find some negativity in your performance. No, but the difference is you're not in the entertainment world. So we know we live under that microscope. So you just have to have that perspective of we all care a whole hell of a lot about what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because in our world, if you don't perform, you're gone. And not many people live in that world like we do.
It's interesting.
So that's from a player's perspective, kind of that whole thought process.
For the social media and everybody paying attention and really diving deep on everything, as soon as one mistake happens, maybe once or twice, it becomes a trend, and then it becomes a snowball rolling down a hill, and I think that really builds upon itself, and that's not how the players can look at it, I suspect, but that's how everybody else does, and I think it really does a disservice to analyzing the game, because like you said, you make a mistake and you know it, and you try to go and try to fix it, but what we do from Sunday to Sunday is perseverate on one thing and say, oh my God, this is happening, and now this person is bad, and he should be gone, and I think it's too much in this day and age. Do you agree?
Well, I think to some point, though, and this is kind of in contrast to what I just said, but to some point, people aren't as good as other people. There's better players, and that's the thing is I think as fans, we're all knowledgeable fans because we see so much information, so much content. We're able to watch so much film and see things back on what players make mistakes, and so that's in front of us. Right, so the reality is there's better players out there at positions where we need to improve. Right, I mean that's the reality. Mm-hmm. So when you know that, and we have all this knowledge, we think we have the answers, and you think that you can just make this change, or you have this expectation they need to be kind of taken care of right away, because in our world now, it's all push of a button, and we get reactions. So, I'll say this: after watching the game, there's a whole heck of a lot we can do a whole lot better. And the things we're doing, the mistakes we're making, especially in the two games that we've lost, which is one we're concerned about. Starting fast certainly was a problem in Green Bay. I don't think it was a huge issue in Chicago. Chicago was just an ugly, ugly game. Offensively, most importantly, defensively, get a little wore down. Got to get our butts off the field. You understand that. But this to me, this doesn't fall on. Kind of back to the original question I kind of missed, is this doesn't fall on Mike Zimmer to get his team prepared to play in the first quarter of Green Bay. These are grown men that have to get ready to play. This is their livelihood. I can promise you, Zimmer put his best foot forward on preparing those guys that week for Green Bay to get off the bus and go play. Now, could he have gotten scripted that first 20 plays and they get a score and he didn't react quick enough? Now, we could argue that point, but to not have the guys ready, that's not really on him, in my opinion. But obviously as you get scripted in the first 15 to 20 snaps of a football game, now that falls on Zim to react. And he did, I think maybe a little late, but because they had the first 3 drives and they score and we get behind. But the reality is he, look at the last 3 quarters of that game.
Yeah.
Say he didn't make changes and impact that game, from a defensive standpoint and play calling is ridiculous.
How difficult is it to...
So I think...
Go ahead.
What's that?
I was just going to say, how difficult is it to, you talk about reacting, react mid-game when Trubisky goes down and then Chase Daniels comes in. It looks like, they weren't exactly ready for that. How difficult is that for a defense to change gears? I mean, are you preparing for something like that as it comes
I don't think that's a factor. I really don't. I don't think that Chicago changed what they were going to do based off who played quarterback. I just don't believe that.
That's a good point.
And I don't think that that whole. I give credit to Chicago and Chase Daniel for coming and making the throws, making the plays. Because listen, we know a lot of bad backup quarterbacks out there. And I have to say, when Trubisky went down, I'm licking my chops like, here we go.
Yeah.
Right, let's get to a point we can start pressuring this guy, and but credit him, man. I mean, you got to at some point you have to realize these guys are all good, right? For the most part, that dude stepped up and played. I mean, he really did. And to me, what I saw is a lack of pressure up front on our side, especially immediate pressure, push up the middle, people in his face to really, hey, let's make Chase Daniel uncomfortable. He didn't look uncomfortable to me.
What do you attribute that to?
And when you have, you have to
play calling or
right. The obvious thing is, well, we never got in a position to really blitz him a lot and get into our blitz schemes and kind of get to that level, especially with the way the drives were going. And when we did, now given we did get home maybe a few times, but for the most part the pressure wasn't, enough. So you got to credit their O-line for holding up under what we thought was a big advantage for us in the defensive front. I mean, I would have said that going in. And so you got to credit them and credit their protection schemes. And the one thing you could say maybe from a coaching standpoint that we want to say we got out-coached on was just attacking their protections and getting people in front of Chase Daniel when it became him as the quarterback to really make him uncomfortable, make him throw that errant pass we were all waiting for him to make. But look at the guys how they score, right? Tariq Cohen on Anthony Barr. You love Anthony; he's a stud. He's a problem for offenses to block. It makes a ton of plays. But Tariq Cohen against Anthony Barr is not a great matchup for us. I mean, he's not a good matchup for any linebacker in the league. So, I mean, they got their guys in the right spots. You could see in the second half adjustment there as they started clamping Anthony with Harrison coming down and kind of doubling Tariq Cohen out of the backfield, which is a good adjustment to make. And now they kind of inside and out him, and then they have 2 people on him. So, he runs an option route and has both ways to go. We have him covered both ways. So, I don't know. It was frustrating to watch as a fan because it was ugly. It was not really a fun game to watch in general. Kind of taking it back to that Chicago Green Bay game, the opener of the season. Just a clomper, right? Not fun to watch at all. But that's how they play in Soldier Field, man.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and I bring it up a lot on one of your. You've been on the show. This is your 3rd appearance, I believe, and you talked about
strange
as players going into Soldier Field, especially. It's kind of in the back of your mind a little bit more than perhaps most people would think, or would at least have heard the opposite from when players or coaches are talking football speak.
Chad, you mentioned just to dovetail on something we already touched on. You mentioned if you're not the New England Patriots, you're just like everybody else. So how come they're different? What's the difference in personnel?
Well, I mean, I think obviously they're different for 2 main reasons. Well, 3 reasons. Obviously we could sit here and talk about Kraft and his issues, in the off season, but from ownership to head coach to quarterback, right? They all align. The three biggest people in that building, as far as decision makers and impactful people or groups, are all aligned. You have a quarterback that essentially could require as much money as he could ask for with the amount of success he's had, even at 42 years old, and he chooses essentially to not ever make that an issue. You have a head coach that never lets one guy get bigger than the team, and it has that mentality since day one. And even though Tom Brady is 42, he grew up in that world of fully respecting Belichick and what he brings to the table as a coach and that success that comes with it. So I got to imagine even in their film room on Monday after a game, if they play well or they play poorly or if Brady makes a mistake, I bet he's still calling his butt out, regardless of how many Super Bowls he's won. And that's how they keep their edge of accountability. And their mentality is who's coming in next and who's going to do their job. If you're not going to do your job, we're going to find somebody that will. And they just, look at Chandler Jones, they sent to Arizona, all these players that come through, they just don't care about the individuals. They care about the team. And then you look at Belichick, and he always finds a way to craft a defensive plan, especially early in this season. They've been incredibly good.
Yeah.
But over the course of, his tenure there, he's always found a way to put a game plan together that's successful in big games. And he's always done that. That's really his background. So it's essentially Zimmer with, in my opinion, how he runs the ship. That's really how Zimmer wants to be, with an elite quarterback that wins every big game he's ever put in front of. And I really feel like our ownership, albeit maybe not quite, they're not nearly probably as cutthroat as what Kraft has been, because Kraft really lets Belichick make those calls, and that's Belichick's mentality. But that's where the success comes from, in my opinion. And it's putting the right bodies around them. But it's almost the opposite of what you might think, right? It's less ego, more control from the head coach, and bringing in the players who are going to fit your system, and then just playing.
And speaking of big games, quarterbacks winning big games, that's one of the knocks that people have, put against Cousins, and there's that stat of his record against teams with above a 500 record. What do you see from him as a linebacker? He started out the season out amazing last year. It's just that the defense was slowest to get going. There was no run game. The offensive line was what it was, and then as the season wore on, the defense got better. The run game didn't. He kind of got happy feet and gun shy a little bit, it seemed like. And from the way that this season has started, especially in the Bears game where he was pressured a lot, it seems like he's still got some of that happy feet, gun shy situation going on. Is that what you're seeing, or is it deeper than that? I assume it is.
I don't give him as much blame, especially with dealing with the pressure this Sunday. I really feel like we have a lot of offensive line issues in that regard, and it was more physical. I mean, they were more physical than us. They got the quarterback. They pushed people back in his feet to kind of make him. It's really hard to not be antsy and jumping around and have happy feet when there's people literally always around you.
Yeah.
If he was having a clean pocket and had open throws to make, and then he was just deciding to run out of the pocket because he just was doing it, now you put that on him. But it's a combination. It always is. It's never one person. And I've actually been relatively critical of Kirk Cousins as well, and not from I like Kirk. I think it was a great deal they got here. I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of people are going to hate that statement, but the reality is we've always missed, since you go back to even my time and before, since Culpepper, we've never had a franchise quarterback that could come in and say, he's our guy. We're moving on beyond the fact of what's the discussion here. It's just he's our guy.
Have you heard that
my
stat?
entire 11 years.
The stat, really quickly, sorry to interrupt you, that since 1978, there hasn't been a Vikings quarterback that has started 2 seasons in a row and played the full 16 games each season.
Yeah, and you want to look to, why we haven't had, enduring success, right? That would probably be the number one reason. When you ask me why the Patriots are so good, they've had the exact same quarterback doing the exact same thing for 20 years.
Yeah.
That's part of the reality. That's crazy. So, but the reality is, and we have to live in reality, is he's not playing well enough to win football games, especially tough ones on the road. He just isn't, and he knows that, and we all know that as fans. And whether you're the guy that says, I called it, I knew he was going to be this, well, that's great for you that you called it, you think you're so smart. The reality is he's just not playing that way right now. And
he lost.
Think he can get there? I think a lot of us think he can get there, but it can't all be on him either. And I think what he's really been better at this year is and I think where he's going to gain a lot of fans, at least he should, if fans are thinking properly, is that he's understanding that he's making mistakes and he's noticing them, and he's wanting to correct them.
Yeah.
And he's saying, hey, yep, I missed, he came up with Thielen in his podcast, and hey, I missed you here, I missed you there, I missed these opportunities. To me, that just shows a level of kind of humanizing himself to say, listen, I'm not perfect. I don't think I'm perfect. I know I'm highly paid, and I got to play better. at least to me as a fan, looking back, like, yeah, okay, at least he gets it. At least he's not living in this world of, like, delusion. Because I think some fans believe that we live in that world of just like, well, I make a lot of money. I don't care what fans think. To me, being self-aware and being like, listen, I know I got to play better, and I played like, horse crap in Soldier Field. Let's tighten it up and get going. So he knows that, he understands it, but he's got to play better. I loved what they did at the end of the game, and I almost wish you could kind of reverse the game and let him get comfortable. We go to a 2-minute hurry up type of situation.
No huddle.
Now, given they're playing prevent defense and playing zone behind, so they're kind of letting them catch and run. But still, just to let Kirk get a little more comfortable, right? And when you put the defense on their heels, all of a sudden you pick up a first down or 2 first downs, and you get a little momentum. Now your quarterback gets hot and gets going, because I think we can all agree that we know he has the arm ability and talent to make every throw.
Yeah.
We know when he gets on a rhythm and can start making throws, we have the receivers, we have the quarterback, we have the running back to make this thing go. So you almost want to look at, if we're going to place blame, you got to look, okay, O-line, Kirk. You almost want to look at, and I love Stefanski, he's my dude, but you almost have to look there and say, hey, okay, maybe we need to put our people in better situations. And whether that's coming from Zimmer down to Stefanski, say this is the type of football team I want to have offensively, so let's do it until we can't do it, and then we'll try to figure something else out, because that could be happening as well.
Do you think he's lost?
That I saw.
Do you think he's lost confidence at all in anything, in his line and his coaching staff and himself? You think that's a problem?
Confidence is a constant problem in the NFL. I live that. I mean, everybody's so good that if you go and you're going to have bad weeks, you don't care if you have a Pro Bowl type of season, you're going to have bad weeks, you're going to have bad plays. Your ability to move on and just have that thick skin with yourself really comes from, to me, that level of accountability on Mondays, like we talked about. Going in, watching the film in front of your buddies and saying and owning those mistakes and be like, you know what, I'm going to own it, I'm moving on. I know I'm good. I've been good. And I'm going to go find that player again. Now, Kirk, you worry about it because he's your quarterback, and confidence and quarterback confidence is very, very important, much more important than the linebackers. You want to make sure he's not shaken. And I think as a fan base now, like, it's not a better option to go to the second guy. So as a fan base, we can be as negative as we want. We're a quarter of the way through the season. Hey, let's figure it out. Let's be more positive with our quarterback, right, and help bring him back, because the reality is we can rattle off 4, 5, 6 wins in a row, or have a really good next 4 weeks and get to a really good spot midway through the season, knowing that we can win and beat any team on our schedule.
We got to have you talk a little bit about your defense. It's the reality of the situation is the defense only gave up 16 points last week, and that's all they're giving up all season. And if you got a defense that does that, you can win a lot of games. So it's not really time we should peel back the panic a little bit for this team, shouldn't we?
I do. You look at the defense and what they've done, right? I mean, they've played well when they've had to play well. If you're asking your defense to keep you in the football game last weekend, you can certainly argue they did that. I mean, I know that in that room they're disappointed because they wanted to play better, and they want to be the team to win. They want to be the part of the football team to win the football game. To get a turnover, to get that timely pick six, whatever that is, and that's what they've feasted on, and that's why the types of players we have in there are so good, because of that mentality. But again, you look at the schedule. The most disappointing part is we, if you just said, look at this schedule when it came out, we have to go to the 2 toughest road spots we have right away in the first month. You'd have loved 3-1, right? We'd all love 3-1. We thought, I think we would, 4-0 is the best. 3-1, we'd be really, really happy with. 2-2 is kind of like, well, that's kind of what I expected, but man, I wish it was better. That's kind of where I'm at. It's kind of what I expected, but man, I wish it was better. And you wish you could find, especially both those games that come down. Green Bay's one possession. We had the ball going into score. Mistake was made. Well documented. Chicago, we just could not get anything moving and going. So again, in position to probably get that game in the fourth quarter if we want it. We go make the plays. So we're there, man. It just, that's the frustrating part, I think, as a fan, is we're right there. You win that game, even if it's ugly in Soldier next week. This town is completely different mentality.
You're right.
It's a completely different tone. So, and even though it was, you make one more play and you score and we win, but it's still that ugly. Now you're happy, so you got the win. So we're not that far away. We talk again in 2 weeks, and we've gone and we're 3-3 or 2-4. Now we got problems, and then we're going to burn the whole place down. So
you heard it, Joe. Chad's coming back in 2 weeks. He just said,
Hey, it's
no, I'd be happy to. Yeah, I'd be happy to
confirmed.
come back on. I mean, it's fun to chat about it, in a more casual way, and not be on the on the radio and stuff. It's fun to kind of break it down a little bit further and have more time to kind of get into it. So, I enjoy it, but it's one of those things. It is hard, and I think as a being more of a fan now, obviously even though I'm a former player, I have a really good perspective because, I got to be honest, I had a hard time watching that myself.
Yeah.
It's disappointing, and I hate the fact that we're not including the tight ends more in the passing game. Obviously, Kyle's great friend of mine. Would love to see him get more opportunities, especially in critical downs and distances.
I'm really surprised by that.
Yeah, I thought
with Kubiak coming in.
Oakland.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his game, right? You look at the tight ends in Houston and the success they had with him, and in Denver, it's like, these are the type of offenses that really should support, a 2 tight end system like we have.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm not in the room, so I can't say, is that on Kirk? Is that on, hey, the coaches tell me to throw the ball in these 2 spots? Is that a product of having, 2 really good receivers that we're trying to force the ball to? I just don't know what that is, and I wish I had an answer for the fans, but that to me is frustrating because I think as a defender in the middle of the field, typically you have the most space. It's the easiest throw. These guys have huge bodies and can catch anything in the huge radius. It's just hard to defend that, on a simple pitch and catch. So that's kind of some frustrating things for me offensively. So I get it as a fan, right? You're kind of in that spot, and I understand that.
Yeah, my fear, and then we'll get into Friday and everything, and I just want to see if you've seen any of this, obviously, because you have that perspective, is that after the Green Bay game and the interception on first and goal from the 8, that they either would make a decision, the coaches, or Cousins would in his mind, to kind of go back to a Case Keenum, every play you have 2 options. If it's not open down the field, just dump it off. And there was the 13 completions that Cousins had against the Bears that were, for 50 yards total. A lot of dump off passes, and that obviously happens too when you have no time, as we saw with Bradford. But do you see any of that, maybe trying to make Cousins more conservative so he's not taking those chances down the field, even though, again, to go back to the beginning of last season, some of those touchdowns he had to Thielen were like a hair away from being an interception, just perfect. If you take that away, it kind of limits, obviously, what the offense is doing. I don't know if that was just something that I wanted to see, or that, you know what I mean? Like, the results if it reinforced my theory, or if it was just based on how the line was playing.
No, I think that's a good take and a good question, and I certainly hope not, because you want to kill somebody's confidence. You start making play calls, conservative play calls like that. Because if you think those guys don't understand that, know that, you're nuts, right? You can sense and know when your coach is not believing you based off a play call.
Wow.
Right. So if that's happening, there's a lot bigger problems than we feared. So I think you look at the situation with the offensive line and just in general the lack of time, with Mac and that whole process of guys up front. And I don't think it's a bad idea to dink and dunk to get your quarterback some confidence and some shots, especially early. But you cannot take that ability to throw the ball down the football field. I love that man-to-man shot that took a Thielen early. Those are the ones we obviously all want to hit. They got really lucky on that one that we missed it. But don't lose that. When you got a 3rd and 40 or whatever that one down and distance was, and we throw a dump off screen or something, I'm like,
yeah.
In this day and age of penalties, like, let that thing rip down the sidelines. And what's the worst thing that can happen, right?
It's basically a punt anyway. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. So you take a shot and say, let's get a PI here, right? Let's take a shot, and we'll be able to lose it if nothing's going. So just infuse something into our football team, almost like you thought was going to happen with Digby on the big catch, and then you think, okay, here we go, right? We're going to get rolling, and so back to the question: if they're making those decisions and they're kind of making the decisions, kind of shrinking that opportunity for Kirk to be himself, then they've lost confidence in him too, and that's not going to be good for anybody. I just don't believe that's the case. I think it's just more situational.
Yeah.
I'm going to believe that until I know different.
One more quick one here, Chad. Have you ever gone into a game and you get out of, you prepared for the team all week, and you get out there and they have something completely different for you that you had no clue about? Do you guys prepare for like more than one inevitability or one game plan from the other team and say, okay, this is what we're doing. We thought they might do this, but they're doing that, so we're going to adjust to that. Or do you just have to retrench and redraw it up at halftime or in game? How does that work?
A lot of times, you kind of plan for everything right? You're not going to sit there and you don't have the time during the week and the amount of effort it's going to take to try to plan for everything. You do that, and that's what some of these teams do with kind of putting some of these gimmick stuff, and you see teams put in special teams fakes just to make the team prepare for it, just have it, right? So if you start trying to prepare for everything, you're gonna be chasing your tail all day. So if you prepare for what you know, and you come into the game feeling confident in what's going to happen. And that was the funny thing about when the Wildcats came back a few years back, it was like it drew an uproar and had all these issues with the Wildcat. Well, I always liked our approach is like, listen, let's just do what we do. Let's play our base defense. We're going to fill our gaps. We're going to play our rules, and we're going to make the tennis and move on. And that's what we did. We never had an issue with the Wildcat because of that reason. We're not going to try to chase our tail. So I think when you start to see something that becomes maybe a little gimmicky, a little out of character of a team you're playing, to me, the best reaction is always go back to what we know. Because your base defenses that we work on daily throughout the year are what you know best and know those rules best. And then the rules in that defense can really account for everything. Now, it doesn't mean that the players are going to make the plays. It doesn't mean that you're not have a player miss a tackle or slip or lose contain or whatever that might be on rule. But that's the easiest way to prepare for something. That's always go out there and say, I'll keep playing.
So is it less of a chess game than we seem to think it is when we're looking at it?
Yeah, I think sometimes that gets a little overhyped, the chess match sort of standpoint. Because essentially, when you're talking about like a defensive call, for example, we don't make a personnel or group call defensively until we know what the offense is going to help, right? So we see the personnel come off the sidelines. Coach Zim's going to call for a certain personnel group to counteract that, and now they change their playbook by whatever 50-70%. Okay, they're in this personnel grouping. Okay, now they're going to get the hell out of this formation out of this personnel grouping. Now you shrink your playbook another 15%. So now it's just about cataloging and understanding what they're trying to do out of each formation, and then each motion within each formation. Then is it lined up? So yes, it's a chess match, but it's much less of a call chess match. It's more of a pre-snap 10 seconds before we get the information and process it. That's where the understanding of the game and understanding of your game that you've watched really helps players separate themselves from everybody else. You might say, what Jim is really good at, though, and this is maybe different than other coaches, say you get a 2nd and 5, right, or, on the 40-yard line going in, his understanding of what to call against that situation, knowing what the other team's going to do, that's where the chess match comes in from a play calling standpoint, relying upon Zimmer to be that expert that we all know he is. Because, that's coming in his study of what they like to do in that situation. So if he's always going to run the ball with the down safety, right, he may call something to blitz up your edge or whatever it might be. So, it is a chess match. It's not just a game based on strategy, but at the same time, when you're putting a position of player, it's about making play. And also there's also efficient. Like this weekend, like maybe you have a guy that doesn't play out of body, the game's not coming to him, right? Just go force something. So there's so many different parts of this game. That's what makes it fun to everybody is all the moving parts and all the moving pieces and the play calling and the strategy, and that's what makes it fun. But man, it can be frustrating when your team's not playing well.
So for those that aren't familiar, which is becoming harder and harder with how much you're getting the word out there about Grey Duck, could you explain why you got into the vodka game and kind of what the philosophy of Grey Duck is in terms of versus your competition and it being more locally based, that sort of thing?
The chess game for the vodka.
It is a chess game for sure.
Yes, it certainly is. So when my partners reached out to me about a year and a half ago now, maybe a year and about 18 months ago, they had a concept of this Grey Duck vodka brand. Really a Grey Duck brand, one of based on vodka. And the concept was starting to have a real celebration in Chicago. And the idea that we actually, before that game, they had played a special on Kyle's brother who had childhood cancer. So my partner said, this is great, make a brand for local source that we made, and bring it to charity point and have this thing be truly community-based. So when they pitched it to me, first of all, I didn't want to be just a marketing guy behind it. I don't want to just go out and do events and just say, hey, I represent Grey Duck Vodka, that is really good. I wanted to be part of it. because as my brand was built within this community, Vikings fans, the people thought that I tried to be as authentic and real as I could be. And, good, bad, or different, I am. And I think people really resonate with people, and people like that. So I didn't want that to be any different with my brand, other than Vodka brand. And so I became an owner and a partner, and I literally, in all the day-to-day operations, I'm in almost every meeting I can get to as far as, new retail spots or new business, and just try to grow our brand really daily. And it's an absolute hustle. I mean, it's an everyday
it's a grind.
Yeah, as an entrepreneur, you guys know, I mean, it's a grind. It's a lot of work and a lot of relationships and just building that trust. And so, we've made a nice step out. And we're in 5 states, North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
And people have loved our product. Yeah, we're in western Wisconsin. Just last week. Our brand is made in Benton, Minnesota. And another really, fun part for me is obviously growing up on a farm in South Dakota. We're able to support local corn farmers up there around the Benton area by buying their corn through the co-op and producing our vodka from their corn. So, that's another kind of local play for us. Is our products made in Benson, which is west central Minnesota, just St. Cloud, and head to kind of straight west and a little north. And you bottle it in bulk, it's scalded. And, we just try to keep it simple and clean. And I think the biggest thing is when you have product that's really good, like ours is. We've won 4 medals now, and all that we won gold in every country we've entered. For taste. Wow. I just think that you provide a good product, want to get behind for the right reasons. And now kind of coming full circle is with our Twin Cities Summer Jam Music Festival opportunity this summer, we raised about $25,000 for U of M Children's Hospital. Wow. So we're starting to create these kind of community and charity components that truly makes the company local and community-based, which is what we were funded on. And now we're doing what we're doing long enough that we can really start to kind of double back and do that. And we're really hoping to do a lot more of that as we move forward. We're some big news for the month of October on some really good pricing deals and going to call a customer appreciation that they're leaving us at a young age, and a young company. And, it's also, take over Minnesota. We wanted Minnesota's vodka. We're the 19 drinkers vodka. We wanted the vodka of all Minnesotans for all the right reasons. And if you're giving a vodka in this state, you want to come to us. And so we're going to really kind of hit that home in October. And then we have some really exciting fun stuff in November and December heading into the holidays. We have a really nice community kickback component to it. Because this is about, our brand and growing it. But it's also about our community and our state and all the great people here. And that's what, and how we're going to separate our company from everybody else.
If you want to be a Minnesota's vodka, you've got the right name for it then.
Exactly. That's perfect.
Yeah, speaking of getting out in the community, we're having an event this Friday, and I've been holding up for those watching the video stream, I've been holding up the logo for McDonald's Liquor. It's a liquor store on 34th. It's like 50th and 34th by Lake Nokomis, really close to the airport and the Mall of America. Starting at 5 o'clock, Chad will be there doing a bottle signing, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. But what I've learned from, I worked at a liquor store in college, and McDonald's Liquor happens to be one of my clients for my internet ad agency, and people are very, I know you know this, Chad, and Joe, too, because Joe works in the industry as well, as part of what they're doing down in Mankato. There you go. People are really loyal to their brand, and I think that the number one question that I get from people when I talk to them about Mankato or Grey Duck is what is like the taste profile. Because there's different kinds of vodkas, obviously, just across the board. Even an unflavored vodka, there's some is more dry, some is a little bit sweeter. How would you to people who might not have tried it yet?
Yeah, you kind of get opinions from people across the board. Our taste profile is probably best be described as just a tough sweet with a really smooth finish. So this is a vodka that can be drank completely on its own, neat, on the rocks, or it's a great mixing vodka as well. So really, any way you try this, it's going to be really good. It's not going to overpower your drink, not going to have any kind of a burn. This is a highly distilled, very clean, and very good grain alcohol made with our great Minnesota corn. So there's really, if you're a vodka drinker, or even if you're not a vodka drinker and like to mix and make new cocktails, this is going to be the vodka for you. We'll go side by side with anybody. You name the vodka, you name the price of that vodka. Yeah. We'll go toe-to-toe with anybody on the taste, and we will all have a fair chance to win. Yeah,
it's a great price point too. I think at McDonald's Liquor, it's $19.99 for a liter, $24.99 for 175, which is a great deal.
And with that, pricing is so interesting. I know that's kind of when these learn the hard way. Is in this industry, finding your price point and understanding how to work with retailers. It's a challenge, and it's part of that world. So we are constantly trying to, none of us are from there's 4 of us main partners, none of us from the liquor industry at all. And so there's a learning curve, and we've been able to kind of survive that learning curve and now to kind of understand the industry and now to know it. to see, hey, where can we impact our fans and our drinkers, right? And obviously everybody's impacted at the pocketbook, so we want to make sure that we're offering the best price we can, to be not competitive in the consumer market, but also, allow our company to grow the way we want to. And there's that fine tipping point that we try to find, and it's constantly working with retailers for the best thing for that location, that spot. But people are out there wondering, man, it's a different world in this industry, and it's kind of fun to learn it, fun to see it. It's something that's definitely a learning curve.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of playing chess, so Friday at 5 o'clock, you'll be at McDonald's Liquor signing bottles of Grey Duck, and on top of that, I believe people will be able to try it.
Yes.
And also, there's going to be a silent auction. There's going to be a raffle of a whole bunch of Vikings memorabilia, and also a silent auction of some really cool stuff, courtesy of another sponsor of ours, Total Sports Enterprises, and a few different beers and wines to taste for people waiting in line. But it should be a great event. People can still RSVP on Facebook if you go to McDonald's Liquor. Just go to PTS.com right now. It's the top article. You'll see it on Bleacher Report or anywhere on social media. But we definitely appreciate you coming on the show again, and giving us some of your insight. And we're super excited to hang out with you for a bit on Friday, and hopefully do a little bit to be part of the Grey Duck movement and get the word out there for people and everything. So it should be a great time, and people listening can stop through this Friday, the 4th, at 5 o'clock.
Great conversation, Chad. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's always fun to come on and chat some ball. Let's do it again here. Let's do a recap of the signing, kind of where we at 2 weeks from now. So call me back in 2 weeks. Let's do this again. We'll recap the signing, and we'll see where we're at. In 2 weeks, we say our most important, kind of getting fit for 5. That'd be kind of another conversation to see, kind of test the waters where our fan base is.
Definitely. We're looking forward to it. So thanks again for coming on, and we'll chat on Friday.
Sounds good, man. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Joe, that was a great conversation.
That was amazing. I will run a quick promotion from our new podcast distribution platform, I guess is the best way to put it. We're now the show about the labor, Load the Box, our pregame show, the smoke break, once they start implementing video-based stuff, which is a show that I basically just get on before halftime and after games. Yeah, I basically still one guy. If you guys want to see a grown man weeping, that's basically what smoke break is. But here is the commercial. All right, a couple things. I mean, we're actually close to going to the full hour. That was a really, really insightful and amazing conversation with Chad. He's always so open and honest, and